Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Biblio Files, the program on AADL TV, where we spend a little bit of time each week talking about one book topic. My name is Lucy, and as usual, I'm here with Amanda and Christopher, and today we have a special guest, Elizabeth. And the topic that we are going to be talking about today is a book about music. So, Christopher, what did you pick?
Well, of course, there were so many books that we could think about with music. But I went with one of my favorite authors, Oliver Sacks' Musicophilia. I just love Oliver Sacks. I think he died about 5 or 6 years ago, and I was really sad about that. But it's so nice to go back to his books. This one has a familiar format as some of his other books, not all, where he looks at a lot of patients in a semi-clinical setting. But of course, being Oliver Sacks, he delivers all of this information in a very readable way, but more importantly, in such a humane, humble way, the way he treats all of his patients. Basically, he's looking at all the neural underpinnings of music and the brain, and it's fascinating stuff, as always. You know, everything from talking about someone who has severe amnesia, yet can still remember all of these compositions on the piano, to many other people with brain worms, which of course is not as horrific as it sounds, but he looks at all of these ways that music impacts our brain and our lives, really. So, I think that was, I wanted to say one other thing. This book is kind of a treat for Oliver Sacks fans because he references so many of his other books in this, and I really appreciate that. So, Elizabeth, what do you have for us today?
I also brought a book from one of my absolute favorite authors, although it is fiction. This is Bel Canto, Ann Patchett. And this is from 2001, so it's one of her older titles. I just love Ann Patchett. I love everything that she writes. This is a really interesting premise. It is based on a real thing that happened in the 70s in Peru when a bunch of Japanese businessmen were actually held hostage. And so this book opens in a small Latin American country. And there is the government of the country has invited a variety of Japanese businessmen, one in particular, to come to this grand dinner there in the hope that they will build a factory in this country, which will then allow for jobs and economic development and everything. And they lure this one businessman in particular there with a performance by a American soprano singer who is beloved by this businessman, and that's actually the only reason that he agrees to come. And she gives this riveting performance. That's how the book opens. Then she sings the last note. The room is plunged into darkness, and the military comes in and holds everyone there hostage, hoping that the president is there, although he is not. He is staying home to watch his favorite soap opera. Anyway, it becomes this really story. There's several love stories, and music really interweaves its way throughout the book as the hostage situation goes on. Many of the people there, both the military and the hostages, find themselves happy to be there. They've kind of left their lives behind, and it becomes this kind of liminal state that's really beautiful for them. The soprano teaches one of the military young men to sing. There's a pianist who amuses everyone, delights everyone with his amazing piano skills. People begin to learn each other's languages, and just a really beautiful story, a really fascinating story. And just, I love this book. I've read it several times, and really a great, interesting way to have music weave its way through the story. Yeah. So I would recommend it. I don't usually say that, but if you haven't read it, I would. Amanda, do you want to share?
Yeah. So when I was thinking about and we do this every week. I didn't know what book to pick, and originally I was going to do a book about rap, and then I decided not to do that book. And then I pulled a book off my shelf that we have in the library collection about a musician. This is a large, heavy book. It is called David Bowie is Inside. And it's a book all about David Bowie. It's about 300 pages. It's just big and heavy with the thick, glossy paper. And this book was published in 2013. And it's actually the catalog book that ties to the exhibition called David Bowie Is, that ran from 2013 to 2018. It started in London and ended in Brooklyn, New York. And it toured around 12 museums across the world, only twice in the US during that time. But the book is amazing, and you don't have to have gone to the exhibit. It's great for fans of music or for memorabilia tied to music, or if you just love David Bowie like myself. So the book is beautiful, and inside, I'll try to show you a couple little snippets. There's a lot of text, but there's also gorgeous photographs of him performing or of him at different stages throughout his career, and where he was at and what he was into. There's artifacts and memorabilia. Here are some copies of song lyrics as he was writing them. Or here, the museum had a lot of clothing and outfits he wore throughout the different periods of his life. And so you have photographs of actual things that were on exhibit in the museum. So I know not a lot of people saw the exhibit. I actually went to Brooklyn, New York, and it was amazing. But not a lot of people got to go. So it's a great way, and it's a beautiful exhibit. And so the book is a really great way to experience what the exhibit was like just by looking through this amazing, big, huge book with these gorgeous, glossy photographs. There's pieces of like art he has made, memorabilia from throughout his life or his tours. It talks about some of the films he was in. There's a really cute page where there's a letter from Jim Henson to him about being in the film The Labyrinth, which is really cool. So just a really great book. The library has it in the collection. David Bowie is, if you're ready for an immersive, amazing experience. Lucy.
Well, so this week I'm going to do something I've never done before, which is talk about a book that I have not quite finished. I am about 80% through with this book, and I was reading it this morning, and I was like, you know what? I love this book so much. I'm not going to rush through it because it's as good to talk about right now as it would be if I hadn't finished it. So the book is called The Final Revival of Opal and Nev by Donnie Walton. And it is a new book that's out. It's a piece of fiction, and it is about this proto-punk duo, Opal and Nev. Opal is a Black woman from Detroit. Nev is a white British man. And they have this they have this huge rise to fame after they are in this music festival where this riot happens because of something that Opal does. There's a Confederate flag that another band has and the way she reacts to that. So that's sort of that's the starting point. That's in the 70s. But then the book also goes to 2016 when a journalist, Sonny Shelton, is writing about Opal and Nev as they're about to have a revival concert. And Sonny Shelton has a connection to Opal and Nev because her father, Jimmy, was the drummer at that festival where the riot was, and he actually got killed. So there's all these things that are tied together, but it's sort of written as a multi-voice oral history. Like you get snippets from different people's voices as they're being interviewed or they're remembering, but then, you know, the author will pull in, like, she'll have like Janelle Monáe saying something about her thoughts on Opal or Questlove. And then there's like some, you know, pieces from newspapers at the time. So it's just really all these really interesting voices. And it's so extremely authentic. This is the first work of fiction by this author, but she was an entertainment journalist. So she has a real feel for how that should sound. And I didn't want to rush to the end because I've been so immersed in it. It's so immersive. And I almost find myself wanting to like Google Opal Jewel because I forget that she's not real. And it's also great to see this really strong, fearless Black female character who's in a music industry like proto-punk. There's not, you know, she's in a different music industry for her type of person, and she just really shines, and she's fearless. And so there's just so much in it. It's so enjoyable. I really I highly recommend it, and I think it's going to be a book that you hear about because it's so different. And like you were saying, Elizabeth, with Bel Canto, it's a music. I mean, they're a music duo, so music is very central to it in the music industry. But the way that music is used also to propel the narrative and tell the story is really great. So that is the final revival of Opal and Nev by Donnie Walton, and we do have it in the library, even though it's brand new. So I hope that you read it. And thank you, everyone, for joining us for another episode of Bibliophiles. We will be back next time to talk about our favorite travel book.